So, welcome back.
It's good to be back.
Yeah, we got a short week coming up with the holidays, so not too much going on this week. Trying to close some things before a couple days off.
Yep, be nice. Little break.
Yeah, little golf tomorrow morning.
Yes, sir.
Little recap. Last week we had a talk about trade shows, and then we were at the Vegas show.
Yes.
So, from everything I heard, the Vegas show was good. There was a lot of people there, and they always do like I think they host like a pool party.
Oh.
And then there's also, I can't remember what the other thing was. There was some other party that they do there. So that event's pretty good, especially for the Latino side of the industry.
Oh, is that one?
Yeah. You might want to move that mic up so you come this way. Yep. There you go. Yeah, but some of the news I saw this week came out. There was a IRS advisory group that reintroduced this RTRP situation. Were you around back in the day when that first came?
Well, no. I think that kind of ended right as I was getting into the industry.
Gotcha.
So I missed that wave.
Yeah. So just to kind of fill you and everybody in back in, I believe it was 2011, I think they introduced the program.
Sounds right.
But it was basically the IRS trying to, require actual preparers to be registered for them. They had to go through testing. Mm-hmm. I think it was an individual test, ethics portion, and then you had to continue to keep up with some continuing education.
Sort of CE program.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I remember when the news came out, because at the time, who we worked for, we were doing training for a ton of preparers that weren't like enrolled agents or anything like that. So we were all like, oh man, we got to somehow come up with some kind of course that these people are going to be able to pass.
Right.
And then, train them on so that they could pass this test and then deliver the continuing education credits. I remember it was pretty stressful at the time. And I remember our boss at the time made us all take that test. Mm-hmm. And so I think everyone passed. He didn't want us to study or anything, and we were all pretty versed in those topics. So I think everyone went through and passed that. And I remember they sent out a certificate or whatever. But yeah, they've reintroduced this. Do you have the article up, Batul? Yeah. Yeah.
So is it a certainty that they're going to bring this back?
No. It's this advisory board submits a report that, can you click on where it says annual report right there? There we go. Yeah, so this is the Electronic Tax Administration Advisory Committee annual report to Congress. So if you scroll down a little bit, I think it's the recommendations. I think it's page 10.
Page 10.
Yeah, this is definitely not something that's like
not set in stone yet.
Mm-hmm. Because they recommend a couple other things as well in this report. Go scroll up. Yeah, right there. So present law, there's no current, requirement for this. Individuals can prepare taxes for compensation, and I think the only thing that they technically need is a PTIN, correct?
Correct.
Basically, PTIN is just another identification number to put on all these tax returns that you prepare.
Use in place of your social.
Yeah, instead of using it for your social. But this committee recommended, can we zoom in on that? So they say the reasons for change are about a third of the total amount of EIC payments for 2023 were erroneous. Applying that 94% error rate of EITC returns prepared by non-credentialed preparers equates to over $20 billion in erroneous EITC payments. Yeah, that's big.
It's a large number.
As me and you know, working in the industry for as long as we did and doing what we did, that's a giant place for fraud.
Right.
I mean, I remember seeing, wasn't there like newspaper clipping articles? This is back in the day. People like selling socials.
Yeah.
I remember that.
I think it might have been like what's that? I can't even think of what that what do you call that? That Craigslist ads for.
Oh yeah, Craigslist were selling people's socials on it.
I don't know that necessarily having the RTRP program would giantly impact that. I mean, people are going to commit fraud that are going to commit fraud, but I really think there should be some sort of barrier to entry into the industry to file tax returns.
Mm-hmm.
And I think most people already, like talking to my friends and such, they think that you have to. A lot of people don't realize there is no barrier except for getting that PTIN number. You're able to start filing taxes right away. Yeah,
because I think the only thing they have available is the annual tax filing. What is that program? The IRS has like a
some kind of annual filing.
They have like a continuing education program. They don't. It's not required. I think they just continued it from actually this suggestion years ago. But yeah, I think if they were to put this in place, look, it's going to wipe out some.
It's going to prevent some because it's going to require more work. You got to take a test, and I don't think the test should be incredibly hard.
Yeah, from what I remember, the test wasn't
right.
Wasn't
most
that
individual
difficult.
Returns aren't that completely difficult, but if you're going to at least create some requirement and then have some kind of CE program through the VITA or the TCE to require some sort of continuing education, that might prevent some people that are just in it for the easy buck or trying to scam and make money that way.
Right. I mean, it would, some people would want to, like if you required it, some people would definitely take it just, to remain in the business. It does give them a kind of an authority with their name. Also, if they don't, they can still take that other program, which the IRS provides now. That gives you some, credibility in the industry.
Right.
But overall, I think, this wouldn't cripple the industry by no means.
No, not at all.
I mean, it would wipe out some of the fraud. Obviously, the fraud's going to remain because people are people. Yeah. And, there's always going to be that side of it. But 20 billion in EITC payments?
Yeah. 94% error rate. I mean, anything as far as that kind of goes would go towards cutting down on some of it.
Mm-hmm. Can you scroll down a little bit, Batul? Yeah, so what's their recommendation?
To regulate non-credentialed tax preparers.
Yeah, so it's not a different recommendation as it was back in the day. It's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't feel any kind of way about it. I mean, does it limit how many preparers are out there now? It's not going to limit their tax returns, but those returns are just going somewhere else.
Yeah. And it's good. I don't know why they haven't implemented this long ago. Just a little bit of something to.
Just so any Joe off the street can't start filing tax returns.
Returns out of their hotel room and disappear in the middle of the night,
Yeah, I don't think, people that, the majority of the people that are, fall into this category, I don't know how many are just like totally don't understand taxes. Some of them, that prepare, know the law. Obviously, they know where to steal. Right? The kids, and then, self-employment income, making that go into the sweet spot. Yeah. Obviously, there's enough TikTok videos out there that are going to show you how to steal.
Well, the ones that are manipulating the returns, they have at least a basic knowledge of knowing what they're doing to be able to manipulate in the way that they want it to increase the refunds or such, to make it look good to the tax customer, to recommend them to other people, to where they're just cranking out large refunds and taking a large percentage of that as preparation fees.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not going to eliminate that, but at least it would create some small additional layer of difficulty to get into the industry.
Yeah, you got to pay to get in the game.
Yeah, versus just jumping in.
Yeah, and what this report also doesn't show is, the fraud that comes from people that are credentialed. So it's across the board. Obviously, this might be something that would help the situation. Now, for companies that have, a ton of preparers out there, that might be a little burden to them, because now these preparers are going to have to pass this exam.
I think it could be yes and no on that. They could have 2 or 3 people on staff that have passed it, and they're the ones that review the tax returns and sign off with their names.
Sure.
In such a way.
So you could still technically have unclassified person entering the data. Is that what you're saying?
I would think so.
And then whoever's PTIN's on there is obviously you got to go in there and review the tax return.
Yes.
I can't remember what the ruling is on those. I think you have to do a certain percentage of the work.
Yeah. I would say I don't know what the percentage numbers is on it, but I mean, at least they could have the non-preparers or non-RTRP members enter basic information.
Just like data input.
Yeah.
And then
names, addresses.
Here's the return for the actual PTIN holder and the RTRP
to finish up and review and sign off on.
Yeah.
I think that would be a viable way. That way, not everyone would be required, and make it a little easier, because I'm sure there'll probably be a fee associated with this.
Oh, yeah.
As there is. I mean, I think the P10 fee is $30, $35. So I'd assume there's going to be some extra additional fee to take the test and get registered. But
then you have continuing education to keep up with. Are you going to do that online? Are they going to offer for free?
Well, the IRS offers
tons of free credits.
A number of free credits each year. So the financial implications of it wouldn't be that costly. And I'm sure they're not going to require the same amount as, if they did do this, it wouldn't require the same amount as like me as the EA or a CPA would have to take in order to maintain their license.
Remind me how many C credits you have to have? You have to do them annually?
Yeah, so annually you have to have at least 16 hours with 2 in ethics. For the 3-year period, there's 72 hours.
Yeah, so, and this is from Wikipedia, so do what you want with that, but I believe this is right. 15 hours of continuing education annually.
16.
This is for the RTRP.
Oh, so they're going to require 15 annually.
Yeah, this would be 15 annually. You have to have 10 hours of general federal tax law, 3 hours of tax law updates, and 2 hours of ethics. This is how it used to be when they try to push it through. So they had to do the annual 15 hours. They had to take the test, and then continue in that education to keep your credential.
Those numbers are easy to achieve, especially even through the IRS webinars they host for free.
Yeah, I bet you could get all those for free.
Yeah. There's a lot of avenues you can go for.
Yeah, so for a business owner, hey, we got to switch up a couple processes. Right. Someone's going to have to get registered for the RTRP. Whoever's P10 is probably on their tax return. And then we got to figure out, the cost-effective way to get continuing education.
Which is easily achievable.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
I'm for it.
You're for it?
Definitely.
It's like the wild, wild west right now.
Right now, yeah.
So, yeah, I would agree. I don't think it's a terrible thing, but, there's going to definitely be pushback if it goes any further.
For sure, and especially if there is going to be fees associated with taking the test. But really, any extra layer of some protection in the industry would be good. And, it's not going to prevent bad actors from doing what they're going to do, but it might give some, level of comfort to a tax customer that otherwise has no clue that the person sitting in front of them didn't have to do anything in order to do that and has no idea what they're doing. Yeah,
right now I think pretty much everyone thinks the person that's preparing their tax return has some kind of credential or went to school for, or at least or something. and that's not always the case. It's
These people
more
I've
of
talked to. My friends have asked, I'm like, oh, you don't have to do anything, man. Just get a P10 and you're good to go.
Yeah. You just do a quick search on social media of how to prepare a tax return, and then you're a professional.
Yeah.
But obviously that's not the case.
No. Like I said, I don't think the test should be made impossible for a general person to take and pass.
No, like I said, when we did it, now this was way back in the day, that it was super basic, didn't get into any high level, questions that I remember. It was just common 1040 stuff, filing status, dependency, those types of things. Schedule C a little bit, and then like your wages, retirement, stuff like that. But nothing too complex. Yeah, so that was
we'll see.
Interesting.
Nice.
It's not the first time, probably won't be the last time that gets suggested.
Yeah, they keep changing it. Whether it'll get passed or enforced this year or not, probably unlikely, but maybe in the future it'd be nice.
I mean, with everything else going on and in that world right now is election year, and it's probably going to be a wild ride going into tax season. So the other thing we can touch on, this Chevron thing.
Yeah. Thanks for that.
Did you go down the rabbit hole of the Chevron?
I did. Learned a lot of big words that I couldn't pronounce. A lot of legalese in there. Never looked them up. A lot of confusing words used in this article. But as far as how it will necessarily impact the tax industry, I don't really know, because it seemed like more.
Well, before we get into that, let's go over what that Chevron, what's going on. So the Supreme Court threw out the Chevron decision. It says on this AP article that it's undercutting the federal regulators. So what does it actually mean? I mean, from what I've read from it, means that the feds can no longer make the determining decision when there's like a ruling that's in question.
It might be. I mean, from my understanding of it, basically, if there was a governmental agency if there's a legal issue involving a certain governmental agency, and the text or laws of it written were ambiguous in nature, kind of in the gray area, that the courts generally deferred to the governing body, the federal agency that created that, to kind of make the decision on the case versus them necessarily making the call themselves. Yes or no. So the overturning of this sounds like to me it gives the courts now
the power to do that.
The power to do that versus having to defer to that federal agency.
Okay.
Now, I don't think it prevents them from deferring to that agency. It just gives them more of the power to decide yes or no on gray areas of legal matters.
So the court, that's interesting. So they don't have to necessarily. That's the key.
I'm no lawyer, but
this is no legal advice.
Don't take my advice or my rudimentary understanding of this. That's kind of the way I took it in reading through all these, that whereas they would typically defer to them in those kind of uncertain laws, the way they were written, it could have been taken in one stance or not. They would defer to them. So which could be a good thing, it could be a bad thing, because it gives the courts more powers of deciding, but also in those cases, why would the federal agency not choose what's best for them in a certain matter that could go one of two ways?
Right.
So in the way I kind of take it is in a good way. That's not going to happen overnight, but these federal agencies are probably going to, hopefully, if I'm being optimistic, when they're writing new laws or regulations, or the IRS is coming up with new things, the text is going to be more clear and to the point of it should be handled this way versus it could be handled this way.
How do you see that impacting like the tax industry?
I think maybe it would probably give preparers a little more opportunity to categorize or list things in certain ways where they feel they could probably make the argument for the better of the tax customer, I guess. and versus like maybe playing it more safe.
Yeah.
Going to try to assume what the ruling is or how they should handle certain assets or categorize certain things. So I can see it kind of leading towards people being able to argue, having a chance to maybe argue more one way or the other that might, as long as there's a reasonable stance. It
Sure.
can't just be swinging out for the fences and taking shots and, this could work.
Yeah.
No. So if there's cases of there. Now, as far as like impacting the individual, like an individual tax return, I don't know that it would do much, but maybe more for like corporate and business returns. There might be different ways they could see of handling things.
Mm-hmm.
For now, until I think, like I said, I think maybe it might lead to more clear-cut publications and how you should handle things.
Well, we're going to find out because it's a thing, right? They made it.
I think they officially made the ruling. So we'll see. I mean, it's down to the deep hole on it. There's so much. I couldn't pronounce some of the words.
Well, I mean, I didn't even really never heard of the ruling. It's been around for like 40 years, right?
Yeah, and I think it started off just with the EPA and like a fishing vessel having to pay to have, I think it was like a herring fishing vessel having to pay to have some oversight that would keep track of what they were doing out there.
And the person didn't want to do that or said that wasn't in the rules. He was challenging
something to that effect, but it was really weird.
Yeah.
How it even came about.
Yeah, that's odd.
The fact that it stand for 40 years though with unchanging, so I mean obviously things have changed since then, and
yeah, for sure.
So it could be seen a couple different ways, but if I'm looking at it with optimism, I think it's probably a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully it does lead to more clearly written statutes, and so
yeah, there's definitely interesting, and we'll see how it goes. It might get some pushback, and they might try to reverse it. Can they even do that?
I'm not a lawyer.
I know.
I'm sure I don't know if they'll. I think it's just going to involve like a rewriting, so maybe it's not going to completely turn the power into the judge's hands, but it's the way it kind of read as of now. That's how it looks.
Cool. Yeah, I just thought that was interesting, an interesting ruling.
Yeah.
For this,
interesting to see how it actually impacts everything, or if it even does. I'm sure it will in certain cases.
Yeah. Like you said, there's probably good and bad to both situations that we talked about today. The next thing we can talk about is next week. So we're going to Chicago. Trade show. I'm not going.
Well, it's unfortunate for you.
Yeah. But yeah, so the IRS has the Chicago trade show next week. And
is that the forum next week then?
Mm-hmm. Yep. We'll be attending that one. Quite a few of us are going. And I'm sure it's going to be, it's always big.
Yeah.
Always big attendance at those things.
Done the Chicago one once before.
Did you guys go to a baseball game?
We did.
Sox game or Cubs?
Sox, unfortunately. But at that time,
Well, the Sox were probably good and the Cubs were terrible.
No, they were bad. It was $12 tickets. We scooped them
Oh,
out.
okay. Hey, the Chicago baseball's been rough.
Yeah. Not like my Braves.
We're not going to go into baseball because my Cardinals are in a very, just a slump in the past couple of years. So, but yeah.
Really hate to see it. Darn.
Yeah. Yeah, so the Chicago show's next week, and then the following week, we will go to the NAEA event.
Where's that?
It's here in Orlando.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they're hosting it here. That'll be the first time we go to that one. That one's specifically just for the enrolled agent group. we're actually a platinum sponsor at that one, so we'll be widely seen. So that'd be good for us.
Yeah, good deal.
Yeah. Anything else you want to touch on?
I got nothing.
You good?
I'm good.
So I'll see you tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow morning, bright and early, ready to destroy you.
Yeah, that's definitely going to happen, and we can report on that more on the next pod. Thanks for coming through, man.
Yep, thank you.
All right.